Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The number of coronavirus cases in India has passed the 1 million milestone as a record number of infections, nearly 35,000, were reported in the last 24 hours alone. The country of 1.3 billion people is behind only the United States and Brazil in the number of confirmed infections, and there is no sign yet of the curve flattening. India's testing rate is also among the lowest in the world in relation to its population. In Brazil, the second worst hit country after the US, the number of confirmed infections has passed 2 million. But President Jair Bolsonaro, who tested positive for the virus last week, has continued to play down its health risks and has fought against social distancing orders, calling their economic effects worse than the disease itself.
For weddings and corporate events.
Australia's New South Wales state has said it will ban dancing, singing and mingling at large-scale gatherings as neighbouring Victoria has reported a record daily increase in infections.
Give the NHS.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced that coronavirus restrictions will ease further in England under plans for a significant return to normality by Christmas. But he warned that while he was hoping for the best, the country must also prepare for the worst. The United Nations has made an appeal for over $10 billion to help fight the coronavirus pandemic, which is its largest ever fundraising call.
COVID-19.
The UN has said that up to 265 million people could face starvation by the end of the year because of the impact of the virus. The money will be used for low-income and fragile countries in an attempt to compensate for the lack of support by wealthy nations during the crisis. European Union leaders have met face-to-face for the first time in months with low expectations of a deal on a €750 billion stimulus package. 27 leaders all wore masks as they greeted each other at the summit in Brussels with elbow bumps rather than handshakes. French President Emmanuel Macron said the event was a moment of truth for Europe, while European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the stakes could not be higher.
We have the chance not only to overcome the crisis, but also to modernize our single market and our union, to bring forward the European Green Deal and the digitalization. And therefore, this day today is of utmost importance.
Meanwhile, campaigners piled sacks of fake banknotes outside the summit as they called on leaders not to channel coronavirus recovery funds into sectors responsible for climate change. The economic crisis in Lebanon has led to many Ethiopian migrant domestic workers being fired and abandoned outside their country's consulate in Beirut. Around 650 women have returned to Ethiopia, but many more have remained stranded in Lebanon. Lebanese labour laws offer little protection for migrant workers. The best the women can hope for is that a charity will help them get home. Fighting has erupted in Taiwan's parliament again over the disputed nomination by President Tsai Ing-wen of a senior aide to a top government watchdog post, which the main opposition party has labelled as cronyism. The Kuomintang, or KMT, has mounted a noisy campaign against the nomination of Chen Chu to head of the Control Yuan, an independent government watchdog. The voting on Friday went ahead despite shouting and protests from KMT lawmakers who held banners reading "Invalid Vote." Meanwhile, flash floods and landslides have killed at least 30 people on the Indonesian island of Sulawesi and left hundreds of people displaced. The flash floods struck the North Luwu district of South Sulawesi province after heavy rain on Monday caused 3 nearby rivers to burst. More than 4,000 residents have been affected. Indonesia frequently suffers from floods and landslides, but the situation has been made much worse by the cutting down of forests. Several beachfront houses on Australia's east coast are at risk of collapsing due to severe coastal erosion following powerful swells in the area. Some of the residents in Wamberal, a coastal town 1.5 hours from Sydney, have been evacuated after emergency personnel warned that the residences could collapse into the sea below. Captain Sir Tom Moore has received his knighthood from the Queen at Windsor Castle in his own personal ceremony.
Isn't everybody gets the chance to see the Queen, is it?
The 100-year-old veteran led a fundraising effort that encouraged members of the public to donate £32 million to National Health Service charities during the coronavirus lockdown. Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a special nomination for the war veteran to be knighted in May. And finally, Princess Beatrice has married Italian property tycoon Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi at a private ceremony in Windsor. The ceremony on Friday morning at the Royal Chapel of All Saints at Royal Lodge was attended by her grandparents, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, along with close family. Buckingham Palace has said the wedding took place in accordance with all relevant government guidelines. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.